The Denobulan extremists laughed and mocked the ancient scrap heap of the S retribution, unaware that the decommissioned human warship was about to roar back to life and make them regret ever crossing blades with humanity. Captain Marcus Stevens ground his teeth as the Denobulan curator's smug disdain grated on his nerves while they walked through the Galactic Archives Museum. Even after 50 years, the scars of the human Denobulan war still ran deep. Heavy losses on both sides had eventually forced a peace treaty, but the bad blood lingered. The speaker waved a long-fingered hand at the towering hulk of metal as they approached the museum's newest exhibit. Behold the once mighty human warship, now nothing more than a relic of a primitive, bygone era, a deactivated, obsolete relic, a fitting symbol of your kind's fading power in the galaxy. The Denobulan Museum staff snickered and jeered, poking fun at the crude and quaint human ship design. Marcus clenched his fists but held his tongue. Earth had sent the S retribution as a gesture of peace and cooperation. He couldn't jeopardize that by putting some Denobulan smartasses in their place, no matter how much he wanted to. Suddenly, alarms blared and blast doors slammed shut, sealing off the exhibit hall. Marcus wheeled around as a holoscreen flared to life, showing a scarred Denobulan in battle armor. Krar, the notorious warlord, dragged a group of bruised and bloodied Galactic Council members into view. Denobula demands humanity's immediate surrender, Krar roared. All human colonies will submit to our rule, or these council fools die. You have 1 hour to comply. The feed cut out. Speaker and the museum staff looked around in confusion and fear. Earth would never give in to such outrageous demands, but that meant the hostages were doomed. Marcus glanced at the S retribution looming beside them, a desperate plan taking shape. If he could get aboard and reactivate the ship's systems, the Retribution's weapons could blast through the museum's walls and give him a shot at saving the council members. But the ship had been decommissioned and powered down. Even for an experienced engineer like Marcus, getting those systems back online would be almost impossible, and he'd be attempting it alone while Krar's men closed in. Marcus set his jaw. To hell with impossible odds. Humanity's future was on the line. The Denobulans thought the Retribution was just primitive space junk. Time to show them what human ingenuity and determination could do. He sprinted for the Retribution's open airlock as Speaker called after him in confusion. The clock was ticking. If Marcus failed, Earth would burn. This old warship was about to teach the Denobulans a lesson they'd never forget. Marcus slammed his hand against the rusted airlock controls, his chest heaving. To his surprise, the hatch cracked open with a groan, the ship's systems recognizing his outdated captain's override. Emergency lights sputtered on as he pushed his way through the creaking doors. Marcus raced down the dim corridors, the thud of his boots echoing in the emptiness. The bridge doors slid aside, and he rushed to the command console. His fingers flew over the dusty controls, initiating the power-up sequence. The console flickered, then glowed. Marcus held his breath, hoping the reactor still had some juice. A flash of light made him jump. A holographic avatar shimmered into view, a woman in a crisp uniform, auburn hair pulled back in a neat bun. She snapped a salute. U.S. Retribution AI Aurora reporting for duty, Captain Stevens. Aurora, I thought you were merely offline. Sir, it's good to see you again. The AI's eyes narrowed. I'm detecting multiple hostile life forms. Status of the crew? Just me. Listen, we've got a situation. Aurora's face fell as Marcus briefed her. I'm sorry, Captain, but the weapon systems are completely dead. However, sensors and comms are still online. I can scan for the hostages and tap into enemy frequencies. Do it. We're on the clock here. As Aurora worked, a vidscreen blinked on. Krar's scarred visage filled the display. Time grows short, Earthers the warlord growled. Meet my demands in 1 hour, or the hostages start dying. Marcus slammed a fist on the console. The doors to the bridge hissed open. He whirled to see Speaker, wide-eyed and breathless. The Denobulan gaped at Aurora's glowing form. How did you reactivate the ship? This technology shouldn't even be compatible after all these years. Marcus waved a dismissive hand. Speaker, I need your help. You know this museum better than anyone. Why should I assist you? Speaker sputtered. I don't owe your kind anything, because if we don't do something, innocent people are going to die. Damn it, Speaker, I need you. Speaker looked from Marcus to the screen showing Krar's snarling face. His shoulders slumped. Very well, human. I will help you for their sake, but do not think this changes anything between our people. Marcus nodded curtly, not having time to argue. He turned back to Aurora's expectant face. All right, let's figure out our options. Speaker, pull up a schematic of the museum. We've got hostages to save. As Marcus and Speaker pored over the museum schematics, Aurora's voice cut through the tense silence. Captain, sensors have detected an unidentified vessel docked in the museum's sublevel hangar. Its configuration matches known denobulan designs. This could be the extremists' escape route. Marcus straightened, a plan forming. He pulled up the retribution systems on the flickering screen. What about our tractor beam? If we can lock onto their ship, we might be able to trap them here. Speaker scoffed, his long finger dancing over the console. You must be joking. That ancient beam couldn't possibly penetrate modern denobulan shielding. It's a futile endeavor. Marcus rounded on the curator, his patience wearing thin. I don't see you offering any bright ideas. Unless you've got a better plan. This is our best shot at stopping these bastards. Speaker opened his mouth to argue, but a sharp look from Marcus silenced him. The captain's fingers flew across the controls, diverting power to the tractor beam. The retribution groaned as the system came online, the deck plates shuddering beneath their feet. On the view screen, a shimmering blue beam lanced out from the retribution's hull, enveloping the sleek denobulan ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, impossibly, the enemy vessel shuddered and stilled, caught in the beam's grasp. Speaker gaped at the screen, his eyes wide. I can't believe it. How could such outdated technology possibly? Looks like you're about to get a crash course in human combat tactics. Stay down and don't do anything stupid. The bridge doors hissed open, revealing a squad of snarling denobulan extremists led by a scarred warrior, Vosak, Krar's second-in-command. Surrender, human filth, Vosak spat, leveling his disruptor rifle at Marcus. You're outnumbered and outmatched. Marcus dove behind the command chair as a barrage of disruptor fire tore through the bridge. He returned fire, dropping 2 extremists with well-placed shots. Beside him, Speaker crouched low, his hands shaking on his weapon. Aurora, activate the bridge's defensive systems, Marcus shouted over the chaos. A hum filled the air as the Retribution's automated turrets sprang to life, peppering the extremists with deadly precision. Vosak roared in fury, blasting one of the turrets to slag. Speaker flinched as a disruptor bolt sizzled past his head. He looked to Marcus, conflict etched on his angular features. These were his people, even if they were misguided. Could he really fight against them? Another turret exploded, showering the bridge in sparks. The extremists pressed forward, their numbers dwindling but their resolve unshaken. Marcus gritted his teeth, knowing they couldn't hold out much longer. Speaker made a decision. He rose from cover, firing his sidearm at the advancing denobulans. His shots went wide, but the distraction was enough. Marcus seized the opening, cutting down the remaining extremists with a barrage of pulse fire. Vosak, the last one standing, fixed Speaker with a venomous glare. Traitor, he hissed. You side with these primates against your own kind? I side with peace, Speaker replied, his voice steady. I will not let your hatred and violence. Vosak lunged, a wicked blade flashing in his hand. Marcus moved, throwing himself between the denobulan and Speaker. The knife plunged into Marcus's shoulder, drawing a grunt of pain. He grabbed Vosak's wrist, twisting until the bone snapped. The denobulan howled, crumpling to the deck. Marcus stood over him, blood seeping through his uniform. It's over. Call off your men and release the hostages. Vosak spat at Marcus's feet. You're too late, human. Krar has already begun the executions. Your interference has sealed their fate. He turned to Speaker. The teleporter, can you get it working? Speaker blinked, taken aback. The teleporter, Marcus, that system was unreliable even in its prime. The risk of... I don't care about the damn risk, Marcus snapped. Innocent lives are at stake. We're out of options. He rasped into his comm, lock onto our position and get us out of here. As the teleporter beam took them away, Marcus looked back at the burning ruin of Kreltar, knowing the warlord's reign of terror was over, but he felt deep in his bones that the scars of this day would linger. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. Marcus's comm crackled, Aurora's voice cutting through the chaos. Captain, the Retribution's EMP cannon might still be operational. It was designed to disable enemy ships, but it could also neutralize Krar's cybernetics. Marcus's eyes widened as a desperate plan formed in his mind. Aurora, divert all power to the EMP cannon. Everything we've got left. Spiker whirled on Marcus, his face twisted in disbelief. Are you insane? An EMP blast will knock out the museum's life support systems. The hostages will be at risk. Do it, Spiker said, his voice strained. I'll get the hostages to safety. Just end this. Marcus nodded, activating his comm. Aurora, fire the EMP cannon, full power, now. The Retribution shuddered, its hull creaking as power surged through long dormant systems. A high-pitched whine filled the air, building to a deafening crescendo. Krar snarled, raising a fist to crush Marcus's skull. Suddenly, a blinding pulse of energy burst from the Retribution, washing over the museum in a wave of crackling blue light. Krar stiffened, his eyes widening in shock as his cybernetic implants sizzled and popped, sparks shooting from his metal-infused skin. He convulsed, his grip on Marcus spasming. Marcus dropped to the floor, gasping for air, watching as Krar twitched and jerked, the warlord's augmented body shorting out. With a final guttural cry, Krar collapsed, smoke rising from his ruined form. The EMP blast swept through the museum, shorting out the electronic restraints holding the hostages. They stumbled free, disoriented and terrified. Spiker rushed to their side, herding them together quickly. We must evacuate. The EMP has disabled the museum systems. We don't have much time. As if to punctuate his words, a series of explosions rocked the building, sending debris raining down. The lights flickered and died, plunging the museum into darkness. Marcus staggered to his feet, his head ringing. Speaker, lead the way. Get these people out of here. Speaker nodded, his features grim in the dim emergency lighting. Follow me. I know this museum like the back of my hand. They set off through the crumbling corridors, Speaker navigating the twists and turns with practiced ease. Marcus brought up the rear, his pulse rifle at the ready, shielding the group from falling rubble. The ground shook with each new explosion, the very foundations of the museum groaning under the strain. Dust choked the air, the hostages coughing and stumbling in the near darkness. Marcus gripped a young Andorian woman's arm, steadying her as she tripped over a chunk of fallen masonry. Keep moving, we're almost there. Speaker led them around a final corner, the museum's exit coming into view. Marcus's heart lifted at the sight of the battered doors, daylight streaming through the cracks. Suddenly, a massive explosion tore through the museum, the shockwave hurling them to the ground. The ceiling above them buckled, huge slabs of stone and metal plummeting toward the huddled group. Marcus leapt forward, shoving Speaker and the hostages clear, throwing himself over a cowering Tellarite child as the world came crashing down around them. The roar was deafening, the impact driving the air from Marcus's lungs. Dust filled his mouth and nose, choking him. He felt something heavy slam into his back, pain lancing through his body. As the rumbling faded, Marcus raised his head, blinking grit from his eyes. The Tellarite child stared up at him, eyes wide with fear. Marcus coughed, tasting blood. It's okay. I've got you. He staggered to his feet, the child clinging to his neck. The museum's entrance was blocked, tons of debris sealing the way out. They were trapped, the museum collapsing around them. Speaker limped to Marcus's side, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. The hostages huddled behind them, their faces streaked with dust and terror. Marcus looked at Speaker, a grim understanding passing between them. They had come this far, they would not fail now, not with innocent lives on the line. Marcus activated his comm, static crackling in his ear. Aurora, lock onto my signal. Get us out of here now. As the museum crumbled, the whine of the Retribution's teleporter filled the air. Marcus held the child tight, Speaker's hand gripping his shoulder. They disappeared in a flash of blinding light, the roar of falling stone chasing them into oblivion. Marcus's heart raced as the museum's entrance crumbled, tons of rubble sealing off their only escape route. The Tellarite child clung to him, whimpering in fear. Spiker coughed, wiping blood from his brow. The hostages huddled together, their eyes wide with terror. The Retribution, Marcus said, his voice hoarse. It's our only chance. He tapped his comm. Aurora, tell me you've got some good news. The AI's voice crackled through the static. Captain, I've managed to restore power to the teleportation system, but the EMP damage means it will only be operational for a short time. Marcus nodded grimly. Understood. Stand by for transport. He turned to the group, his expression fierce. We're getting out of here. Follow me and stay close. They set off through the collapsing corridors, Marcus leading the way. Chunks of debris rained down around them, the ground shaking with each new explosion. Fires raged out of control, the heat searing their skin. A scream rang out behind them. Marcus whirled to see a young human woman trapped under a fallen beam, flames licking at her legs. Speaker sprinted back, heedless of the danger, grabbing the beam and straining to lift it off her. Marcus rushed to help, hauling the woman to her feet. Spiker met his gaze, a new respect in the Denobulan's eyes. Together they half-carried, half-dragged her back to the group. They reached the Retribution's airlock, the ship's hull battered but intact. Another explosion tore through the museum, the shockwave hurling them through the open hatch. They tumbled to the deck in a tangle of limbs as the airlock slammed shut behind them. Aurora, initiate decontamination protocols, Marcus barked, untangling himself from the others. Disinfectant mist filled the chamber, the acrid smell making them cough.